that was the worst feeling, having that huge cancellation when you're like really geared up, you're ready to go, and everything's sitting right there at the front of my mind. And then it was like the wind was taken out of my cell a little bit, and it was kind of hard to muster up that energy again.
Jackson, Tyson, Jordan, Game 6.
Hey y'all, it's Jordan or Jorwish, and welcome to or back to my channel. And I'm super excited for today's video. You all are going to meet someone who has literally helped me so much on my law school journey. Alicia, she graduated from UCLA. I think she was a senior when I was a first year. I think so. Don't quote me on that. But she recently became an attorney. So she graduated from Howard Law as well. And I mean, she'll tell you more about herself. This is just my intro. So without further ado, let's get right into the video.
Hi everyone. My name is Alicia Freis, and I am a 2020 graduate of Howard University School of Law. And I am a new attorney in the state of Louisiana, where I'm practicing as a public defender.
Congratulations. Okay, so how was your last year of law school?
My last year of law school was a whirlwind. It started pretty good. We started on a nice high in the fall. It was a great time. We didn't have much of a winter at all in DC. And then I exited during a pandemic, the pandemic that we've all been hit with in some form. So typically your 3L year, you have a barrister's ball, you have a graduation, you have so many beautiful things. I didn't get to participate in any of that, but I still had other momentous highs. Like I was a part of the trial ad team, and we had a championship victory that we haven't had in 20 years. So that's my one treasure for my 3L year.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And yes, I saw, I peeped all the highlights on Instagram. Y'all were killing it. Can you kind of tell us about your plans that you had post law school, like before the whole COVID situation? Like what was your plan and what was your like timeline and everything?
So my timeline was that I would have a party the week after our graduation, which would be around May 8th. And then I would move down like a few days after that to Louisiana, get settled, and then start bar prep. Typically you start bar prep around the last week of May, but I was taking a very unique bar, so I wanted to start as soon as possible. And I actually did start in the fall of my 3L year with bar prep. And afterwards, I did plan a trip. I didn't know where I was gonna go, but I wanted to go somewhere in August. And that's all scrapped now. So I'm just finding new hobbies and trying to connect with my family any way I can. So I've been like traveling and driving around the country a little bit for just the past week or so.
Oh, that's nice. So what kind of made you want to go to Louisiana? Like, was there something in law school that you did that that made you have that plan? Or like what kind of led you to want to do that?
Great question. It actually started in undergrad. I ran into this article. I kept running into articles about the criminal justice system, and they were focused on Louisiana and the Louisiana criminal justice system. And I was learning so much about, like as far as the death penalty and the rates that they convict individuals for the death penalty. I remember reading in college, I think I was a junior at the time, that this one county, but they call them parishes out here, this one county in Louisiana had the highest rate of death row convictions of any location in the country, like outranking states for the amount of time that they would convict at that level. And then my knowledge about like the law in Louisiana started to grow a little bit more, and I learned about how unique and very weird it is. Their law is, they call it the Napoleonic Civil Code. So they have French terms throughout the law, but when they refer to it as a civil code, it means that the law is never judicially created. Hypothetically speaking, like that's the idea of it. But truly, like some things are, and you have to basically memorize the code. Whatever the code says, you go off of the code, and it can be very difficult to navigate because the code actually changes quite frequently, more than you would expect for something that is written down and not judicially created. And it makes navigating the law in Louisiana so much more difficult for the lay person. So it makes it so much more difficult for you to be able to defend yourself should you choose not to hire an attorney or something like that. And that's the institutional racism built into the criminal justice system here. And I found that very unique. And I personally have always dreamt of being a criminal defense attorney. And the reason why is because I wanted to protect people in any way I could. And I felt like California has this robust system built to do just that. It's always evolving, and it has the right people in place to challenge it and to help it evolve, even if it's not there yet. Louisiana doesn't have that. And I learned in law school about how many people leave Louisiana and how depleted they are of resources there. And I actually had the chance to meet people who were at one of the biggest prisons in the country called Angolas. It's really Louisiana State Penitentiary, but they call it Angola. And there are men there who were serving life sentences really because they couldn't have an adequate defense for crimes they certainly did not commit.
That just breaks my heart. Like, I'm honestly tearing up, like, hearing that, because oh my gosh.
It was powerful just to talk to them and hear their stories. And now I'm like forever connected, and I'm glad I get to join the fight in some way.
Yes. So I guess, like, do you choose your job before you take the bar, or did you have to, like, take the bar and then it's like, okay, pass, do you choose your job? Like, how did that kind of go about? Because I'm sure you had to have some sort of thing in place before you just made this big move, you know?
Right, of course. I definitely made the move to Louisiana once I got the job, like for sure that I would go to Louisiana, because I would not want to play around with the Louisiana bar just to play around with it. But some people do that. Some people will take the bar and then find a job afterwards, because sometimes it depends on the climate and the economy at the time. Especially like right now when we're on a downturn and the following years will probably be a downturn, it might be harder to get your job before you graduate. That's the ideal situation. And I was able to do that. But some people you'll have to take the bar and make sure you pass the bar. And once your bar is an attorney, it can be much easier to get a job.
Did you have to pay for your bar prep and bar on your own?
Good question. I did not, thank goodness. So there's something called Barbary, which is a bar prep company, and they also have all law school resources for 1Ls all the way to 3Ls. I recommend everyone to become a Barbary rep, which just means that you are a student representative and you help sell the product. You help sell different services throughout your time. And one of my mentors told me to do that my 1L year. I joined my 1L year and I was able to work for them 1L through 3L, and when you work all 3 years, you're able to get your bar prep services completely covered. And I think they also may pay for other bars that you decide to take.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Really good deal. Yeah.
Howard as well, it comes out of your tuition for Howard. So you don't actually have to pay out of pocket. I don't know if other schools do that, but because Barbary pays for it, I get a check back. Instead of having to pay $0, they give me more money.
Nice. That was really nice. I'm noting that right now. How was studying for the bar? I know you said you started super early, like in the fall, but what was kind of like your timeline for it, and what happened like with the whole pandemic? Because I know they were getting canceled left and right.
So my bar prep schedule, I really tried to start with the fall and setting up a schedule of actually seriously getting started in the fall. And I did. But I wasn't at all moving at the rate I would be when I got into bar prep. So I kind of had like a weekly schedule. If I had room in my schedule to study for one of the bar classes, I did. And then another weird aspect that they don't talk to you about is that sometimes your study timeline also includes the classes you'll take. So I really started my 1L year talking to people from Louisiana who took the bar out there. And I looked up the bar subjects and what was tested, and I made sure like which classes I needed to take on my end, because no class that you would take in any other state besides Louisiana will ever correlate to the Louisiana law they teach, but you can make it up somehow by like getting a framework for certain courses. And so I made sure to do that. I stayed on I created a whole schedule for myself for the entire 1L, 2L, 3L, and like a backup schedule and everything. And for the classes I couldn't take, I tried to incorporate it into my schedule on a weekly basis, and I was able to get early start, which is important. More people, early start means you start bar prep earlier than normal, and you can get access to the materials earlier. And they didn't even really give me real access, which was annoying. They gave me access to all of the classes that DC teaches, like constitutional law and stuff. Like, I want to learn what weird classes they have down there, because that's the whole point of starting early. But I did that. It ended up not helping because all the classes I started studying, they ended up taking them off of the bar exam. So Louisiana went through like 3 phases.
What?
It was a mess, okay? It was a mess. Louisiana went through 3 phases of their changes to the bar exam. The first phase was in around May 15th. You're supposed to start bar prep like May 18th. May 15th, kind of May 16th, they decided to change it from 9 subjects, a 3-day exam where you have 3 subjects each day, and you basically would spend about 5 to 6 hours per day taking the exam. They changed it to a 1-day exam, 7 subjects instead of 9, 50 minutes each. And that's a whole nother thing, because in law school, your exams are 3 hours to sometimes 6 hours long, because the bar exam is long. So to change the entire exam to 50 minutes, like, you have to change everything you've even learned for the past 3 years. Like,
So the entire exam was 50 minutes. It was going to be 50 minutes.
Each subject.
Each subject. Okay, but all in one day?
All in one day. And you'd have a 10-minute break. So basically a break to really just get some water and get back into it again and keep going till 4:30. I think it started at like 8:30, end at 4:30. And they made that change. That was the first change. And so that was a little bit difficult because they had never shortened the exam over the past like probably 50 years that they've had the exam. They never shortened the exam. And the most important thing for bar prep is studying past exams. So we had nothing to reference, because they also shortened the subjects too, the subject matter. And that made it very difficult because for out-of-state students, you don't necessarily know how certain topics really relate. So although, for example, like there are 7 subjects, and they would cut like a really big subject or topic from subject 1, but then it's like, it's very necessary for subject 2. So Barbary told us not to learn a subject. And I was in this weird phase of like figuring out that I actually got to teach myself this subject because it's actually going to be on this other exam. It was a lot. And that happened all the way up until the week before the exam. I'm like, wait, is this going to be on the exam? Like, I was always checking in. And then the next change that happened like about a month before we took the exam is that they added remote options. So you could take the exam online, at home, or anywhere which is quiet. So I definitely opted for that because I was really concerned about exposure. But then the other aspect is that you have to practice taking the exam with the mask on. And I can't breathe with that mask on, even walking down the street. So I knew that wasn't going to work for me. So I selected that option. I thought we were good. Okay, just keep working at it. And mind you, typically, when you're not in a pandemic, when you're studying for the bar, you have a classroom setting. You get to actually meet with professors, talk to professors, have a study group or something like that. We didn't have any of that. We didn't even have a Zoom session with the professors. We had to message them all the time and have like a 2-day delay at least for a response.
Girl, goodness, this is just,
it made it even more frustrating having to juggle what subjects were actually going to be tested, and then the feedback we were getting. The other aspect was that Louisiana law was so complicated, and the Barbary representatives were also locked out from their facility, so they didn't have all the materials, so they really couldn't even help us all that much. Somehow I was able to get connected with the HBCU law school down in Louisiana, which is Southern University Law Center. And there were some professors that I could connect with and some students I could connect with. And so I found a way to have a study group with one other person. It was effective though. And we were going pretty consistently. And so the schedule for bar prep is typically a 2-month schedule. It's about 10 weeks. And the 14 days before the exam, the 2 weeks before the exam, are the most intense. And so this is where the third change happened. So day 14 before the exam, that's where I'm more intense. I was taking 3 to 5 and sometimes 6 or 7 exams per day. And that's exhausting. But I was trying to build up my stamina to do 7 exams in one day. And then on the 12th day, day 12, before the exam, we get this abrupt notice. We didn't actually get the notice. It actually came in via Twitter that the bar exam was canceled.
Twitter? Oh my gosh.
Like, I didn't get a postponement date. There was no expect this amended schedule, none of that. It was just very, very cut and dry, canceled. We're canceling the July 27th exam. And that was very devastating. It was kind of hard to focus as well because it was just all over the place of what's going to happen. And they were talking about maybe diploma privilege and then maybe another date. And everybody was saying, keep studying, keep studying. It was so difficult to even try to look at my stuff. It was a mess. And everyone was saying how unlikely diploma privilege would be. So diploma privilege, to break it down a little bit, it's basically a waiving of the bar exam and allowing everyone who graduated from an ABA accredited law school to be admitted to the bar. And it's been done before many times in many states. And there's actually a state that doesn't have a bar exam. They always have diploma privilege, which is Wisconsin. And we all, like all the law students from the class of 2020, we like learned so much about diploma privilege through all of this. But Louisiana was one state where we thought never. Louisiana would never. Like Louisiana didn't even discuss it back in May when they had all these other options of how to change the way they would administer it. And then we got the notice on July 22nd, I believe, almost a week, about 5 days before when the exam was supposed to be, that they're actually going to award diploma privilege. So it's called This is the best news ever because that was the worst feeling, having that huge cancellation when you're like really geared up, like you're ready to go. And everything's sitting right there at the front of my mind. And then it was like the wind was taken out of my sail a little bit. And it was kind of hard to muster up that energy again. And I didn't know what I was going to do if we ended up having another exam, but I was going to find a way to get ready, but at least having a date would get me there. So, yeah.
I'm so happy for you because with this whole situation, it's like you just keep looking forward to things and getting disappointed. Looking forward, getting disappointed. It's like nothing is certain. So I'm glad that God worked it out because that is just, yeah. If anything, y'all need some type of compensation because this is crazy.
I know. I was telling people, I said, if there is no diploma privilege, I'm getting my lawsuit ready. I was just about to hit up one of my mentors.
You're an attorney now. That's so great. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing the story. I guess like the last thing I would want to ask is like, do you have any words of encouragement for, I guess, anyone? Because people watch my channel in all stages of their journey.
Definitely. I would say keep the faith in whatever stage you're in. If you're at the LSAT phase, just stay diligent. Stay diligent, create a disciplined schedule. I found myself thinking back about my discipline from my LSAT phase when I was in my bar phase. So it's still a life lesson. And then 1L year, stay energized as much as you can. Focus on you. Say no to others. It's all about you right now. And lean on all of your mentors and all of your resources. Ask questions. No question will ever make you look dumb. Ever. Because some people in the class will be asking 10, 20 questions per class, and people may be thinking one way about them, and somehow they end up coming on top, like number one in the class after their 1L year. Those questions are everything. And don't ever overestimate your understanding or your knowledge about the law or the information you learn. Always challenge it. Always challenge yourself and have fun too. Law school is very fun. Take advantage of every opportunity that you can. And remember that your classmates are going to be your colleagues. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Not like undergrad.
All right. And thank you all so much for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Jackson, Tyson, Jordan, Game 6.